Hello, class. My name is Professor Sharon Chanley, and I received my bachelor's degree from Boston University in Psychology and Women's Studies and my PhD in Experimental Psychopathology from Tufts University. And we are here to talk about the brain, and specifically the lobes of the brain, because if you didn't know it, your brain has 4 distinct lobes. So the learning objectives for this lesson are first to locate the lobes of the brain, identify one function of each, and understand one result of brain injury or illness in depth. And believe it or not, we're going to do all of this in less than 5 minutes. So we're going to start at the back of the brain. So your eyes are here and the back of the brain are here. And at the back of the brain are the occipital lobes involved in vision. And this might seem kind of startling because your eyes are here and the information about vision has to travel all the way to the back of your brain. But that's how it happens. And so in this part of the brain is your primary visual cortex, responsible for most of the conscious aspects of sight. And if you damage this region of the brain through injury, you will be functionally blind, even though your eyes are working perfectly fine and doing everything that they should be doing. So that's the occipital lobe. Coming down underneath the brain are the temporal lobes. We have 1 on each side. A lot of auditory information is processed in the temporal lobe, which kind of makes sense because it's near the ear. Also, many regions involving understanding and producing spoken language, and also some motivational and emotional behaviors. One interesting part of the temporal lobes is called the fusiform gyrus, and you can see it underneath the brain here. So we're looking at the brain from the bottom up. The fusiform gyrus is a temporal lobe structure involved in facial recognition, being able to tell you're my sister, you're my teacher, and you're my friend, just by looking at somebody's face. In fact, if you damage this region of the brain, if you damage the fusiform gyrus, you might experience something called prosopagnosia, which is a disability where you can no longer recognize people's faces. You can often figure out who they are by context clues. Someone standing in front of the class next to the chalkboard is probably your teacher, for instance, but you have difficulty actually distinguishing people using just the face alone. Above the temporal lobes, but behind the front, we have the parietal lobe. And these are regions of the brain involved in attention and spatial location. So figuring out where things are in space and attending to them. And an interesting phenomenon that can happen if you have damage to, especially to the right parietal lobe, often through stroke, you stop attending to the left side of space. It's not that you can't see it. If I direct your attention there or you move your head, you can see the information in the left side of space, but you neglect it. You don't pay attention. And so folks with spatial neglect, for instance, if you give them models like this to draw, they will copy it like this, leaving off the left sides. And these are spontaneous drawings. They will neglect the left side of space. And then finally, the frontal lobes are involved in motor control, especially fine motor control. So moving your body and what we call executive functions. And executive functions are all those kinds of intellectual planning, delay of gratification functions we think separate us from a lot of the rest of the animal kingdom. There's a terrible form of dementia called frontotemporal dementia, or FTP, that attacks the frontal lobes, and there's a deterioration. People with this disease rapidly lose a lot of cognitive functions and their personalities are forever changed. So there we have it. Frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the lobes of the brain and one form of illness or injury. Thank you.